Hey, just to make sure that we are all 100% positively clear on this, just at the top of the show, I want to make sure everyone knows we too are no Jedis. What is going on, everyone? It is Wednesday night. This here is the Cinefanatics channel, and this is the Tagline, the show where the tagline is the title. My name is Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And yeah, we got a show tonight. There's a show.
Every time we do like a tagline intro, instead of doing the actual tagline that we've given to the tagline, I feel like you're about to roll into everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Like, whose line is it anyways?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Tagline, the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. I mean, that would work probably with some like YouTube channels or Twitter channels where they're talking about movies, like all those like Marvel updates that we've been seeing over the past like couple of weeks. Like this just in, what was it? The Japanese Spider-Man will be in Deadpool 3. I'm like, no, he won't. He might be in the next Spider-Verse movie though, if they ever make it. But
one of those might be true.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, how is everyone doing tonight out there in internet land? Anyone from Southern California, how are y'all holding up? That y'all just went through the apocalypse.
They're holding
up second time this year.
Perfectly fine because it's bright and sunny now.
I know, which is funny because we here in Austin, Texas, what was it? I think they said, let me double check.
It's also bright and sunny here too.
Yeah. We actually got some rain yesterday.
For 40 minutes.
Was weird. Did you know this was a concept that water could fall from the sky?
Yeah, we got it for exactly 40 minutes. It's 40 minutes of rain is the most rain we've gotten in the last almost 3 months.
Apparently, we have gone, and I don't know where the news article disappeared, why it's still not a big news article. I want to say it was something like 45 days straight of triple degree temperatures until yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday broke it.
A little bit of rain came in, and we got underneath 100. Let's go.
Yeah, there was a tropical storm that came in through the Gulf of Mexico, and while we didn't get a storm, we got some remnants of, let's just call it moisture. I know people don't like to use the word moist, but we got some moistness from the coast, and yeah, it was nice for a minute. Now it's just really super humid, which, I mean, it was to begin with anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Didn't really change anything except the sidewalk absorbed that water like a sponge. So
true.
Anyways, I see Tyler in the chat. Hello, Tyler. Anyways, top of the show, let's knock out the YouTube things. Y'all got questions, comments, issues, complaints. Streamlabs.com/Cinefanatics, a good place for that. Also, Patreon.com/Cinefanatics. If you feel like we are worth supporting and you have the means to support us, please don't put yourself out for us. But I feel like there's a better way to say that phrase.
If you feel like we're worth $1 or $5, please join our Patreon.
Yes. What was it? Last week we did the movie watch along. We watched Nacho Libre, my first time watching it, and it was enjoyable. Next week we will be doing our Patreon trivia hangout. It's going to be general trivia. All you have to do is just be joined at the $5 tier, and you could come hang out and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, anyways, yeah, so that's Patreon next week. Oh, upcoming shows. Tomorrow, I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or probably Friday. Very likely Friday, because I kind of liked how that worked for Blue Beetle last week.
Going to be a lot going down on Friday.
Yeah. Probably on Friday, we'll have our spoiler-free review of Gran Turismo up. I know it's spoiler-free. It's another one of those that's based off a true story. We already know the story of this. A kid played a video game, and he played the video game good enough to actually be able to go do the real thing. And I'm probably going to be all confused on how that concept works because apparently y'all didn't understand how I said all this in the trailer reaction we did. So yeah, I remember we were talking about this in the trailer reaction. Like, how is it possible that someone could play a video game and then just be good at doing the real thing? And I was talking about the concepts of it, and everyone in the comments was like, but this actually happened. You didn't know anything. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, you didn't listen to what I was saying. So, to bring it back to what we're doing, yes, we'll be doing a spoiler-free review of a true story that should be up on Friday at some point. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Anyways, also
you want to go down a path less traveled, you're on your own, buddy.
All right. Also on Friday will be the marquee. This month is August, and there's 2 members of our family seemingly have birthdays in August. Unfortunately, we forgot our sister Amy's birthday, which was a couple of days ago, but I didn't forget. We did remember Chris's birthday, so in celebration of Chris's birthday month, we're going to be tier ranking some of his, not necessarily his favorites, but just movies that he really does like. So,
I didn't forget our sister's birthday, but she never messaged me for mine, so... this is a marquee that's covering movies that I really, really enjoy. Not necessarily in my top 10, but these are movies that I may not talk about as often, or, if I do talk about them, it's seldom. And I do really think that all of you should at least view at least one at one point or another in your life. So that's what this marquee is going to be. It's my picks. I picked these movies. We're going to tier rank just a random hodgepodge group of movies that I love.
Is there a movie called Hodgepodge on the list? Like, was that a part of it? Because I don't remember watching that, and I'm running out of time to catch up on these movies that I haven't seen yet.
It's the other Wes Anderson movie that was on the list.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks. Anyways, yes, if you are a part of our patron, if you are a Patreon and our patron, whatever. If you're a patron of our Patreon, in the marquee channel on our Discord, you can see the entire list of what we are tier ranking. So go look at that list. If you haven't seen any of those movies, go quickly watch those movies. Join us live in the chat. That is going to be on Friday, the 25th at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, right here. You can be in the chat and vote on where you think it should go as well. We are accepting of your votes on this. So yeah, go check that list out. There's some good movies. Like, there's a couple of movies I've had to hodgepodge too many things. Great. There's a couple of movies I've had to catch up on, and I have found 1 or 2 really good ones out of that list. So yeah,
I know what I'm talking about.
Good job, Chris.
These are all S and A tier movies for me. So yeah, I'm going to be upset putting any of them in F.
Something's going to have to go F, so we'll see. I think I might know of one I'm going to probably put in F already.
Oh, yeah, La La Land isn't on this list. I forgot I took it off.
La La Land is not on the list. You do not need to watch La La Land before this marquee.
This month.
I can't promise any other marquees.
In the future.
In the future.
You don't need to watch it this month.
You don't need to watch it this month. Yeah. Anyways, so that is the marquee. Again, that's this Friday, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Should be a lot of fun. We usually really have a good time with those marquees. They're kind of fun to sit here and I'm going to put this movie that everybody loves in D. And then just the chat just loses its mind.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Fist shaking in air.
Yeah. That should be a lot of fun. Also, real quick, those of y'all that are in the chat, if you're watching live, I am contemplating possibly doing just playing some Fortnite in a live stream after Tagline tonight. So if y'all are down to hang out, or if anyone is watching that likes to play in squads, if you would like to join, sound off in the chat so I know. Anyways, movies watched over this past week. I know I've seen a ton. What have you seen?
I saw one.
You saw one, Blue Beetle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we saw here's the thing. We saw Blue Beetle. I thought it was good. I thought it was a decent movie. I mean, it's not the best, but...
It's fine.
But, how's it doing, Rotten Tomatoes-wise? I haven't not looked that up lately.
Last I saw it was, in the 70s or 80s. Critics' Choice anyway. I don't know how the audience number is doing.
It says 77% on the tomato meter. Audience score is 91.
That's crazy.
That's pretty solid. Now, here's the thing though. I know we dive into this a lot more on our actual spoiler-free review. I think the movie is a good general superhero movie. Yeah. I think it's got that audience for it. I think the biggest thing that hinders it is it just plays on so many tropes that we've already seen dozens of times in other superhero movies. But you're not going to get away from that at this point.
What we refer to as a formulaic crowd pleaser.
I believe it's going to be really hard to do anything new in a superhero movie that hasn't been done already. And I said this in the review as well. It's at the same point, it's hard to do anything new with these characters in the comic books that haven't been done already. I mean, there's only so many stories you can go. Superhero gets killed by the bad guy and sacrifices himself for the greater good. He comes back to life. There's a multiverse. We've got the good guy fighting the bad, evil version of itself. I mean, all of these things are just constantly popping up in comic book stories and therefore also in comic book movies. So, yeah, I think it's one of those, like, yeah, it is. It's the same kind of stuff we've seen in comic book movies already, but what else are you going to get?
The thing that movies can do a little bit different that I would have liked to see them play with a little bit more in Blue Beetle, and it's something that they can do with, other superhero movies still, is we're kind of barely scratching the surface on the comic book film, the superhero movie, flirting with other genres.
Yeah.
And, we've gotten a few that are kind of like, ooh, there's a little bit of horror here. Like every time there's a Doctor Strange, everyone's all like, ooh, here comes a horror movie. And then Doctor Strange happens and we're like, that wasn't a horror movie. There was nothing really horrifying about that.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying. Also, for comparison on that, New Mutants.
Yeah, New Mutants
was heavily flirting with horror type elements.
They have like pieces that can be like found in horror movies, but they don't like fully like commit. Likewise, there's other genres. You can obviously, a lot of comic book films do the sci-fi thing. There's a couple of them that kind of flirt with westerns, but we don't really have like a whole like full on commitment to other genres yet, I think, in most comic book movies.
Yeah. So the horrifying part was the movie. I think that's kind of the same. I think New Mutants, I don't think it was that bad of a movie. I think it was watchable. It was just a really small, self-contained story. And at the end of the day, I'm like, why do I care? Like,
I can't remember what I thought about that movie.
Like, I know I have rewatched it since we saw it in the theaters during the pandemic when it was finally released.
Oh, I gave it 2 stars. Apparently I didn't like it.
You didn't like, it didn't bring anything really awesome, but like, I think the casting was good. I think a lot of the casting, especially for Ilyana, Moonstar and Moonstar? That doesn't feel right. Danielle Moonstar. Yeah. Okay. And Wolfsbane, Rain. I think those castings were fantastic. Sunspot was good as well. I don't know about Charlie Heaton as Cannonball. But yeah, I think like the casting was good. I think the story was good as far as a New Mutants movie, but it definitely felt like it was something that would have done better had they done a sequel to it. Like introduce us to these characters and then bring them into the world, actually interact with the X-Men and whatnot like they were supposed to, but whatever.
Of course, we know our friend of the show, Demon Bear, did a fantastic job in that movie.
Oh yeah, and Demon Bear was awesome. He was the best part of that movie by far.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we watched Blue Beetle. Over this past week, I've caught up on a lot of ones that I've never seen before, including the aforementioned Nacho Libre in our Patreon watch along. I also watched that No Hard Feelings, that Jennifer Lawrence movie that came out. It was all right. Like, I know a lot of people were swearing like this is the return of the R-rated comedy and stuff. I was like, not really. Like, they say the F word a lot, and like you see her naked briefly, and that's about it. Like that's as much R-rated as that movie gets. I will say though, I do feel like the trailer is very misleading. The trailer makes it look like it's going to be like some kind of like raunchy sex comedy, like a lot like the American Pie movies way back in the day. It actually has more heart than that, though.
I'm gonna be honest.
I think it was very heartfelt.
I don't know if I've still even watched the trailer for that movie yet.
No hard feelings?
I know its existence. I know about it. I just don't know if I've ever watched the trailer for it yet.
Do you know what the premise of it is?
Jennifer Lawrence is doing Jennifer Lawrence things in a Jennifer Lawrence movie.
Well, sort of. It depends on how you define Jennifer Lawrence. Because she's not Katniss in this.
You can't define Jennifer Lawrence.
Basically, it's an introverted kid he's actually, I think he's like right at 21 or something like that. He's about to leave to go to college, and his parents hire Jennifer Lawrence. That would have been a different movie. They hire Jennifer Lawrence to date him, and that's a recurring joke that they're constantly referring to it as dating him. Of course, we all know what dating means and what they're actually implying, but yeah, it's actually like pretty heartfelt. So it was interesting, but I don't think it was as great as I think a lot of people were selling it. So also
just remember, don't put J-Law in a box.
Yeah. Also watched Begin Again, which I think I briefly heard of this movie. Like I guess it won like an Oscar for like best song way back when, or if it didn't win the Oscar, it was definitely nominated. That was a cute movie. And then Moonrise Kingdom, which was a Wes Anderson movie. That one I'll probably talk a little bit more about on Friday for some reason. Don't know why, but I feel like I'll talk more about that movie on Friday.
You might mention that and Begin Again a little bit more.
I might talk about Begin Again some more on Friday also. Who knows? I might feel in the mood to talk about both of those.
Interesting.
But anyways, let us get into... Well, before we get into some movie news, so I do see, Tyler is in the chat. I see Joey in the chat, Jeremy, Brennan in the chat. Welcome to the show. Thank y'all for watching. Anyone else who's in the chat whose name I didn't mention, sound off. Let us know you're here. We will be talking about the Ahsoka show a little bit later. We got a little bit of other news to cover first. And I don't know, do we necessarily want to talk anything like spoilery for Ahsoka? So we'll give a heads up real quick.
So here's the beautiful thing about Ahsoka being live during essentially prime time.
Everyone's seen it.
Over 24 hours later, most people have seen it who care about spoilers.
Yeah.
If for some reason you are here and you are watching us and you don't want the spoilers to Ahsoka because for some reason you have not yet seen the first 2 episodes, just let us know in the chat so we know. Otherwise, we're going to assume that all y'all have seen it.
Yeah. So I'll bring this up again here in a little bit. But yeah, let's get into the movie news portion of this fine and dandy show.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is what's happening in your world tonight.
We apologize for the interruption.
Back to you.
I was wondering if you were still going to sit there with like the mug held up to your face the whole time. Like, damn, that's a big drink you took.
No, I drank all the water I needed to drink right then.
Nice and full.
Anyway, box office time. Let's talk about that box office, guys. Here's the fun thing we like to do with the box office every time, which is can you guess what the number one movie in the box office is this week? I'll give y'all a hint. It starts with a B.
I saw that one coming.
If you remember the last few weeks, there's been a movie that's been number 1 that starts with a B. Once again, this week, a movie that starts with B is number 1 in the box office.
And here, just in case that clue doesn't help you, I'll give you a clue as well. It is a movie that's produced by Warner Brothers.
I'll give you another hint. There's a second B in it as well. There's 2 B's in the title of this movie.
I mean, yeah. And there's definitely a color that's very pronounced.
Oh, what's that? You're saying I'm hearing Barbie out there in the audience. Y'all are saying Barbie? Barbie is number 1 again for the 5th straight week? No, It's finally been dethroned. It's Blue Beetle.
I mean, so here's the thing. Like, first, right off the bat, all the crap that DC has been through, especially this year, with all of its movies just tanking. That's the weird like W for them, is the fact that they dethroned Barbie. Now, granted, yeah, Barbie has been out for like a month already, so sure, I guess, but the fact that it's a DC movie that beat Barbie, just the logistics of that. Don't think about anything else except just that sentence. That's pretty wild.
I'm kind of nervous about the idea that Warner Brothers is basically cannibalizing their own audience. Because they had the number one movie, and that movie would have stayed number one.
Yeah. Oh, because Barbie's number 2?
Because Barbie's number 2.
I mean, sure, possibly, but at that point, does it really matter which movie they're paying to go see? No matter what, Warner Brothers got your money, whether they went to go see Barbie or they went to go see Blue Beetle. And from a marketing or, like, I guess, studio point of view for that, how many tickets were sold for Blue Beetle? Out of those tickets sold, how many of them would have bought a ticket to Barbie had Blue Beetle not come out?
I mean, that's a good point. There's
Probably not many.
There's a very high chance that people just would not have gone to the theater this weekend if they weren't going for something like Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
So it's very true. But anyway, Blue Beetle opened with about 25 million. So we're talking about domestic release. I believe the movie's budget was 100 something million.
That had to be over 100 million.
I think it's still pretty low because, again, initially this movie was originally being primed for a streaming release. So I imagine the budget on it was already just pretty low anyway.
Yeah.
So 25 million domestically it's not great. It's not great. Worldwide, it's doing almost 50 million right now. About 49 million worldwide. So
104 million was its budget.
104 million. Let's add maybe another 100 million for marketing in there potentially.
I don't know
if
about
that much.
I don't think it did that much because really the only marketing that it had were just trailers.
So maybe basically another 60 million probably.
But possibly. I didn't see really anything marketing wise outside of like maybe some extra posters.
Yeah.
And then the trailers.
Rounding wise, we're looking at potentially probably about 150 or so million for its total budget.
I would feel that safe, yeah.
And it's at a third of that right now worldwide. It might, through word of mouth, it might get some legs that'll carry it for the next couple weeks. The problem is this next weekend it's going up against Gran Turismo, which does have a little bit more hype around it right now and has been advertising in theaters for quite some time. We've been seeing the trailer for that for quite a while. Yeah. And yes, of course, the hurricane that hit only a select portion of Southern California definitely is absolutely hurting Blue Beetle's total box office run, even though that hurricane came and went in 2 days, a day and a half.
And really, by the time it got to LA, it doesn't look, from the pictures and videos I've seen, it didn't look like it was like as massive as like say the rains that LA got at the beginning of this year. So yeah, I'm wondering if that it like how much did it really hurt?
Yeah,
I know of people who live in LA who still went to go see Blue Beetle over this past weekend. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the $25,030,225 gross from this weekend, and I'm thinking that number might have been $25,050,225 if it weren't for the hurricane. So, gosh darn it, they missed out on maybe $10,000 to $20,000 just from the Southern California hurricane area.
Yeah,
for a day or two. Yeah, that's a dumb comment. It makes no sense. So that hurricane had no bearing on anything with that movie whatsoever. The only potential thing I can see is if the hurricane kept people from going into work, which kept it from being distributed on time to other international markets. I would not be able to tell you if that is a truth or not. That is the only thing I can think of that would make any kind of sense in that scenario. They just couldn't get to work because of torrential downpours and whatever.
Something like that.
Other than that, the hurricane did not affect it whatsoever. Yeah, so Barbie, number 2, after 5 weeks being in the box office, finally dethroned from the number 1 spot. Given that Blue Beetle opened at 25 million and Barbie at the number 2 spot has 21 million, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it hang on to that number 2 spot, as Gran Turismo will probably take the number 1 this next weekend. and I could see Blue Beetle bumping down to number 2 or number 3, I should say. So I could see Barbie sticking around for a minute. Blue Beetle is going to have a little bit of legs. I don't know if it's going to have enough legs to get it all the way through to its budget, making its budget back, but it'll have a little bit of legs to keep it in the top 3 for a few weeks. Oppenheimer, number 3. This just goes without saying right now, if Barbie's number 1, Oppenheimer's number 2. If Barbie's number 2, Oppenheimer's number 3. I think we're going to see that change. We're going to see that change a little bit this next weekend, I believe. With Blue Beetle kind of.
You called that from last week also.
Oh, the Oppenheimer would be number 3? Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking about Oppenheimer would come back to overtake the Meg 2 and Ninja Turtles.
Yes, and it did. It overtook both Ninja Turtles and Meg 2 as well. So we'll say this. Number 3 is Oppenheimer. Number 4 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Number 5 is the other new release this weekend, which is Strays. So Strays overtook even Meg 2, which is sitting at number 6. So opened at number 4. Nope. It's been out for 3 weeks now. It opened higher than that. But it is now at number 6. And then number 7 is Talk to Me, which is still hanging out at that number 7 spot. Number 8, Haunted Mansion. Number 9, hanging out at the number 9 spot still, is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Into Darkness, Rise of the Batman, Electric Boogaloo, Planet of the Apes. Number 10 is Sound of Freedom, still hanging out in the top 10. That movie will probably be bumping out of the top 10 here within this next weekend.
So very likely, yeah.
That is your top 10 right now. I wonder what Stray's budget is. It opened with less than $8.5 million. Worldwide at $12 million.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that movie costed a whole lot. So, other fun fact is that we got a 2023 re-release of Old Boy sitting at number 12 in the box office right now, with less than $500,000.
That is cool.
So there you go.
That's really good for Old Boy, or for a re-release of Old Boy, not the Spike Lee Americanized remake.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, that's not as good as the original, but it added something to the original that if you've seen the original, I think there's a part of it that's still worth seeing, that Spike Lee, just because of that little thing that was added to it. But I wouldn't necessarily flat out say it was required. I think the original Old Boy is damn near a perfect movie as far as the story it tells and how it tells it. So yeah.
My heart goes out to you and your family, Joey. I hope that you guys, if we need to start a fundraiser for you to help out with the cost of damages for your house, just let us know. We will do our best to raise money so that you can take care of all of that extensive work that needs to be done post-storm.
Yeah, so if y'all would like to help donate to the Joey Needs His ADP sign back in his yard fund, feel free, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. We'll figure out some way to get that Brinks home security sign back in your front yard as quickly as possible. Therefore, deterring the heathens that may show up unannounced to your domicile.
Fine print, if you guys donate to streamlabs.com/cinefanatics, we're not giving any of it to Joey. I like this. So Ahsoka is number 1 at the box office. I don't care that it doesn't have a box office. It's number 1 in the box office in our hearts.
Did start school Tuesday, so I'm not gonna say no. Yeah. Anyways, so that was the box office. Let's get into some actual movie news.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much movie news. Go figure. In this day and age of all the strikes or whatnot. Bye, Joey. In this day and age of all the strikes that are going on that we have right now, surprisingly, there's very little movie news. Which is why the main topic is going to be us talking about a show that has movie connections. So we'll do that here in a minute. Again, we might lightly talk about some spoilers from Ahsoka. So if you are not wanting to hear those, just a heads up, we'll be talking about that here in a little bit. Also, if you're just joining, you didn't hear at the beginning, I likely may go and live stream playing Fortnite a little bit later tonight. If you want to potentially join, just let me know. We'll probably do some squads or something.
He's hard plugging that potential stream that could happen after this.
Well, I haven't made any mention of it yet, so this is the first time I'll mention it, and I'll probably tweet out about it after this is done. I'm just wanting to see if it's going to be worth it. So, anyways. So some of the movie news we did get, or some of the stuff that I guess I felt like that was worth talking about. The director of Thunderbolts, Jake Schreier, said that his movie Thunderbolts is not a sequel to Black Widow or like any of the other MCU movies. They're going to do something a bit different.
It is odd, however, that for some reason it is a sequel to Batman versus Superman, which wasn't a sequel to Man of Steel, but was still technically a prequel, but not really a prequel to Justice League. I don't know.
All right. Well, with that logic, I needed some aspirin. Let me give me a headache.
You should pop a gummy too.
Pop a what?
Pop a gummy also.
Pop a gummy. Yeah, I need some CBD. That was just way too stressful and anxiety driven, and I can't figure out what you were talking about. So, yeah, so they're going to do something different. This isn't going to be a sequel. This is going to be basically it's a bunch of supervillains that all team up to do some good
in the
essentially. Comics. It's a Suicide Squad is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to do something different that hasn't been done before, meaning we're going to do the Suicide Squad, which has been done before, but what hasn't been done before is the Suicide Squad overall Marvel.
No, that's incorrect. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Damn it.
No, Thunderbolts in the comics is supposed to be a group of ragtag villains that are utilized by government to do things. And
it depends.
Group that we've had announced so far are not villains.
So it depends. There's a couple of different variations of Thunderbolts. At one point, there was a group of heroes called the Thunderbolts that were led by, I believe it was like Citizen V or Citizen 5 or whatever.
I know who that character is.
Yeah. It turns out that it was actually Baron Zemo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or however he does his dance. But yeah, it was apparently Baron Zemo. They were all actually super villains that were doing evil things. They were just under a facade of being heroes. So that was one thing. And then there's like the kind of like what the group that it looks like we're getting in the movie where they're not really heroes, but they're not villains, which is kind of similar to Suicide Squad. So yeah, like Yelena and Red Guardian aren't really villains. Ghost was a villain in that Ant-Man movie, but she's
barely a villain.
She's not really a villain. She was just a tragic.
She was a person in a desperate situation.
Yeah. So yeah, some of these, like I know, Zemo is a part of this Thunderbolts. Apparently, also it looks like so.
Did they make that official announcement finally?
Well, I don't. Has that ever? Like every time I see anything about Thunderbolts, he just happens to be standing there with them. So I don't know if that's necessarily still. Can we safely assume that? Like we know Bucky, Winter Soldier, is supposed to be a part of them also. So who knows?
Failed Captain America replacement, U.S. agent, supposed to be a part of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what this thing that they want to do that's different, but yeah, it would be interesting.
I know what it is. It's different. They're wanting to put Harrison Ford in a comic book movie.
Oh yeah. They want to have him play Thaddeus Ross since William Hurt passed away.
Nope, just kidding. That was Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh, they did already do that, didn't they?
Dang. So this movie's not doing anything new and unique at all.
Yeah. Well, the thing that it is doing that is unique is they're adding. I am not going to try to pronounce her name, but she did the voice of April O'Neil in the Ninja Turtles movie that recently came out. Apparently, she's in it, and so is Stephen Ewan from Walking Dead.
She's from The Bear.
Yes.
I need to see her name again. I can try to pronounce it.
Ayo Edebiri.
Oh, Edebiri?
Idabiri. Ayo Idabiri. So that's how I pronounce it. So I don't know if that's correct, but
It could
sorry
be Ayo Idabiri. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing of movie news. It's one of those things that I don't know why these are pieces of movie news that gets released. Hey, Deadpool 3? Deadpool's going to be wearing the Deadpool mask.
Spoilers.
Like it's movie news that is released, and I think what happens is, and I don't know if this comes from the actual studios or if it's the media trying to make something that is clickable, that's relevant. Hey, we haven't heard anything about this Thunderbolts movie for a while, so let's release some kind of an article about it to talk about.
I wonder if that is included in a movie's marketing budget.
Like whenever they release stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, because like, say this was a news article that came from a statement.
Damn, we were way off.
It's pronounced Judith Hogue.
We were so off.
No, I would say, like, while I want to give credit to William Harrell for proper pronunciation, I believe that there's also a chance that it may be pronounced Paige Turco also. I'm almost certain. But that's getting a little too nerdy there with our April O'Neils. I'm wondering, yeah, so how does this come to be a news article? Like, I don't think no one I have heard of on Twitter, within like friend groups or anything, not a single person have I ever heard going, man, I wonder if Thunderbolts is actually going to be a sequel. Why is this news?
I just honestly, I'm of the mindset thinking it's just going to be kind of a standalone. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. We don't know right now if there's going to be a Black Widow 2 starring Florence Pugh. But as far as my mind is considered right now, Black Widow is kind of a standalone by itself. Thunderbolts will just be kind of a self-titled standalone by itself, which, they haven't really done a whole lot in Marvel. Most things that come through Marvel usually end up getting a sequel so that they are their own individual franchises. We haven't heard anything about Eternals 2 yet, right?
No.
So as of right now, Eternals is also kind of a standalone, which that is, I think, storyline wise supposed to have a sequel. So
that would make sense, especially because they have to come back to doing something about the wrath of Ereshkigal, or why there's this big ass Eternal sticking out of the Indian Ocean, whatever.
Oh no, don't worry, it'll get mentioned in a random Disney Plus show, and everyone will be happy that finally someone talks about it. It was mentioned in She-Hulk.
Yeah. So, and I understand the irony of this. I've purposely pulled this article to talk about, because it's not that I necessarily want to talk about the Thunderbolts movie. I'm talking now about the marketing of that Thunderbolts movie and how this news works, which is therefore giving me news to talk about. So this is more ironic than anything Alanis Morissette could have ever come up with.
Love the process.
But yeah, I don't understand why this is news or how this works. I mean, granted, yes. Again, people really weren't talking about Thunderbolts. I didn't see anyone going, man, I wonder what's going on with the Thunderbolts. We haven't heard about the Thunderbolts in a while. And now all of a sudden, here's this random thing that the director says that all the news outlets are like, this is news. Let's pump this out. And now here we are talking about the Thunderbolts. Like, how does that actually work? And to you, what you were questioning, is this a part of marketing that either a studio comes up with, or is this something that's coming up from the media side of it?
And the answer is yes.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that.
The answer is yes, because the studios definitely employ people who speak to news outlets. They employ people who work on social media in different forms and facets. So you could portion probably a part of a movie's marketing budget towards the salaries of those individuals, potentially.
Interesting. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of weird. Like little weirdness to go on. And again, because of the strikes and everything going on, again, there's not much movie news to really talk about. I know
So basically, stay tuned for next week, because what will happen is we will actually have Deadpool 3 news, and it'll be, hey guys, guess what? At some point in the movie, Wolverine will rip his sleeves off.
that would be awesome. That would be give us the Wolverine that we want to see from the comics. Yeah,
arm hair, bushy arm hair.
Did you ever see Robin Williams' bit about arm hair? I'm not going to recreate it or talk about it.
No, what's the point? Get on to the next movie news.
If y'all haven't seen it, I think it was from his live on Broadway stand-up. I highly recommend go watch that, because it's one of the funniest little bits he's done that I've seen. It's one that's always stuck with me, because I think it's funny how he did it. That man has some severely hairy arms.
Yeah, he did.
So... yeah, anyways, that was the story really with the Thunderbolts. And yeah, I brought that up because, again, promoting movies at this time is going to be really hard, which is weird because I keep seeing so many of these, like the Ninja Turtles, for example. I saw so many videos on YouTube where we see the stars doing the junket circuit. Usually they're sitting there. I saw them, I think they did an interview with maybe Perry at one point. I did see one video where they did an interview with Emma Fyffe, and she was playing a game with them. But I don't understand how they're doing these while that is promotion for the movie. They're doing these right now when they've been striking for over a month now. And I know some of those videos, they said this was filmed before the strike, which is weird. I didn't know those were filmed so far in advance. Or
I don't know if maybe it's because they knew the strike was coming up, so they decided to go ahead and try to get some of this stuff done ahead of a potential strike.
Which I don't know how I feel about that.
Do what?
Which I don't know how I feel about that. Hey, y'all are about to strike and you're not going to be able to promote the movie. So let's go quickly promote the movie. Let's go ahead and have y'all promote the movie now because you won't be able to later.
I mean, it's fine. It's part of their job. Part of their job is to promote the movies that they're in. So they're just moving up the time when they would normally do that, saying hey, we know full and well that you're probably going to be on a strike during this time. So let's just knock this out real quick. I don't think that's really taking advantage of the actors in any way. Because, again, the actors that you're utilizing for these promotions and stuff like this are usually the ones who are already getting paid the millions and millions of dollars anyway. This isn't doing the little junkets and stuff like that is not taking advantage of the underpaid actors who are the ones that the strike is really for.
Yeah. That being said, though, I think really the only ones I saw doing these press junkets were the 4 kids who did the voice of the Turtles, and then Ice Cube and Seth Rogen. I don't know if I've seen anyone else doing any kind of a press anything.
Seth Rogen is producer on the movie, so I think he gets out of the SAG and writer stuff because. He's doing it as a producer. He's the creator producer of the movie, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ice Cube maybe isn't SAG.
Maybe. Nah,
I don't know.
So for those specifically, yes, I do know a lot of those particular videos did pop up with the filmed before the strike.
I feel like they have to be. I feel like based on SAG rules, he has to be SAG. The kids have to be SAG. Everyone in major roles in movies at this point is part of the SAG union. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It is. If that's the point, if that's the case, then yeah, they definitely filmed those before the strike happened, and they either did it because the strike was going to happen, or they did it at that time because turns out that's just when they filmed those.
Which would make sense because you got to leave it also up to those media entities to edit and put together the video and get it prepared and ready for YouTube. So and they're probably also having some kind of a time restraint on it. Much like if you go to see a critic screening, you may have an embargo that you can't actually talk about the movie for a week or 2 or something like that. So, yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the main topic for tonight, Ahsoka. So again, those of y'all who haven't watched the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, we may cover like some light spoilers. Not really anything too much. Like there's nothing really focusing or spoilery about the show. I feel like that I want to talk about. I feel like everyone's got pretty much a good idea of where the show is going from the trailer.
There's some
and
fun little Easter eggs and stuff.
Yeah, there's a few things here or there, but I don't think it spoils like the actual storyline or what the show is doing. We do understand from the trailer and now we know the first 2 episodes, it is all about them finding this, basically a star map that's going to help them find Ezra and Thrawn.
Yeah.
So we know that's what the show is about, and you've got like Ahsoka and the Rebels group, and then you've got Balin and his group, and they're all seemingly doing it for 2 different reasons, but essentially still trying to achieve the same goal. They want to find Thrawn, and they want to find Ezra. That's it.
And stop Thrawn.
Whatever Thrawn may be doing now.
Thrawn.
Before jumping into this, though, I do want to say I had not watched, what was it, Clone Wars or Rebels. And I just crammed them all in like 2.5 months. And I know a lot of people were always were talking about, like, should you have to watch Clone Wars and Rebels before this? I can tell you from my point of view, just my opinion, I think it makes it better. It heightens the experience. The reason I think this is I have watched all of Mandalorian. Like specifically, let's talk about that first season of Mandalorian that ends with Moff Gideon popping that dark saber. And I saw like so many videos and everyone like, oh, it's the dark saber. That's awesome. And they're
why the hell does he have it?
Yeah, they're all losing their mind. And they're like, everyone's just freaking out. And they're like, yes, this is awesome. And I hadn't watched Clone Wars or Rebels yet. So I saw him do that. I'm like, oh, cool. He's got a black lightsaber. Well, that's neat.
Yeah.
So yeah, the importance of that was completely lost on me.
And then going into season 2, Bo-Katan shows up and you're like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
I don't know what her importance is at all. And I'm having to explain to you, okay, well, she's the sister of the old ruler of Mandalore.
Well, who's the sister of, like, I know Mandalore, the Mandalorians come from there. Yeah, okay. But the fun of understanding what I'm seeing on the screen was completely lost on me for that. So, for example, for this one, I know the one thing that I saw with Ahsoka that had I not watched Clone Wars or Rebels, I wouldn't have understood and it wouldn't have mattered to me. But since I have watched Clone Wars and specifically Rebels, was seeing Ryder in episode 1 of Ahsoka. Not only seeing Ryder, but seeing Clancy Brown playing Ryder.
Yeah.
And when he pops up on the screen, I'm like, yes! I was like, oh, okay, so that's that enjoyment that everyone had when they saw like the Darksaber in Mandalorian. You're seeing like these little things pop out, and you're like, it's awesome! This is so great! Yeah. So yeah, I loved seeing Clancy Brown in live action, playing the live action Ryder.
There's those small things that occur and happen, like Ryder Azadi, like none of us knowing that he was going to be in the show, and just boom, there he is. And then him telling Senator Jai Kell to come up, and Jai Kell, of course, is another character that we've met in Rebels as well. So being able to see those 2 characters in live action out of nowhere was kind of a very special treat. As in, we were really only expecting to see, Sabine and Hera, Chopper, these characters that have come from, Ezra, Thrawn, these characters that came from Rebels, expecting to see them in live action, not really knowing that we were going to see some others. I know was it Jim Cummings is on Twitter talking about
Hondo.
Would you guys like to see Hondo in live action? And hell yeah, I would. Because seeing him as an animatronic at Disney is not enough. But it is a special thing to be able to not only like catch these Easter eggs, like Ryder Azadi being able to be part of it, but also just knowing my take on this, let me backtrack. My take on this is that you can watch Ahsoka without having seen Clone Wars or Rebels. You absolutely can. You might have to just go, okay, I'm just gonna go with it on some story elements. But specifically Rebels, having watched all 4 seasons, when there is a conversation between Hera and Sabine and them talking to each other like they've known each other for decades at this point, that is a special thing that you only really truly get and feel if you saw the show that came before it. And I've seen some people on Twitter complaining about that. I've seen some people on Twitter complaining like, I shouldn't have to watch the show before in order to enjoy this new show. And my thought on that is
movies and TV shows, because that's how they work.
My thought on that is, yes, you should. You absolutely should. And if you don't like that, get over it and watch the show that came before.
Well, so for that particular, I was actually thinking about that earlier. For that particular conversation or argument, yeah, think about how a studio works by not paying their people, first of all. But aside from that, they create content. And if that content does well, they want to create follow-up content. They made a movie. The movie did very well. We want to make a sequel. Jurassic Park did very well back in 1993. They immediately turned around to Michael Crichton and said, hey, go write another book. Michael Crichton quickly wrote another book, which the studio, Amblin and Steven Spielberg, turned around and made The Lost World based off of that book, like lightly based off of that book, but whatever. I don't know why they needed Michael Crichton to write another book when they barely even touched upon it, but that's beside the point. The thing is when you have something in any kind of entertainment that does well, you do a follow-up to it, whether it's a movie by making a sequel or a spin-off like Hobbs and Shaw from the Fast and Furious, TV shows. Look at, like, we have TV shows from way back in the day, and they were really well done. They're remaking them nowadays. Some of them do very well, some of them don't. So even like YouTube, there is particular YouTube channels. I'm trying to see if I could think of one. Like Matt Pat, his film and game and food and style theory shows. If he puts out an episode about a particular theory that does well, you can bet he's going to come back and revisit that same idea later. For example, he did food theory. He was doing theories of how to beat the Hot Ones show, how to eat those chicken wings and stuff without having the spice actually affect you. He did one episode of that where him and his wife were testing different things to negate the spiciness of the chicken wings. And that one video he put out did so well that for was it 3 or 4 years, at least once a year, he would come back and revisit that topic to do it again and again and again. Specifically, Hot Ones started off where they were interviewing like little internet personalities and stuff. Now look at how Hot Ones is today. They are actually interviewing A-list actors and celebrities. So yeah, if something sells very well, they want to create more. And that's the idea for this. Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels did so well that they make an Ahsoka show based on it. That's the whole reason we're getting an Ahsoka show, is because of how her character was received from Clone Wars and Rebels. At least they didn't do that based off of how she was received based off the first season of Clone Wars, because we would have never gotten that show. But yeah, so when it comes time to, do you need to watch these? No, you don't have to watch it. But will you enjoy it as much as someone who has? No, you won't. You won't enjoy Avengers Endgame had you not started with the MCU with Iron Man in 2008 and watched all those years of movies that they put out. Sure, you could watch Endgame. You might even enjoy it, but you're not going to enjoy it as much as someone who has stuck with that content over time.
And that's the purpose of a sequel. That's the purpose of, storylines that carry over and carry through. You want to watch the things that came before so that you are into the story. You are with these characters. Yeah, you're going to miss out on some nice little character beats and stuff in Ahsoka if you didn't watch Rebels or Clone Wars. You're going to miss out on a lot of who Ahsoka is if you didn't watch Clone Wars. because a lot of who that character is and what she represents, especially in conjunction with the Jedi or as opposed to the Jedi, a lot of that you need to have seen Clone Wars and really journey with her in those stories and whatnot. And, you know, then by the time you get to the Ahsoka show, you understand kind of where she's coming from, where her mindset is, especially when it comes to her relationship with Sabine in the show.
Yeah. I want to highlight some of the stuff in the chat that everyone was saying while I was going off on that like side rant tangent thing. Torie was saying that correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Clone Wars was literally made for children, and I think that's the odd thing for people. Funny you should say that, because while I was rewatching Clone Wars, this one would pop in for certain episodes, like some of those key episodes that just were very well made, well written, or had a very key story to the Clone Wars or Star Wars as a whole. Mm-hmm. He would always be over here watching, and then you almost pretty much watched almost all of Rebels with me, or at least the last like 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. One of the jokes that we had running while we were rewatching these is every time something like really horrific would pop up, we would be sitting here going, "Oh, for kids." Like someone would get decapitated, or like the Jedis may force push someone off a cliff to their death, and we're sitting here like, "Oh, for kids." Like
there's a moment in Rebels, beginning of season 3, I believe, where Ezra is flirting with the dark side a little bit, mm-hmm. and he essentially mentally takes control over someone who's in an ATST walker, and forcing them, 1, to start shooting at their fellow troopers, and then 2, walk the walker off of a landing pad down into a canyon, essentially. So he's essentially forcing someone to kill themselves, basically. And that is not for children. That's not for children. So yes, there are aspects of Clone Wars and Rebels. There are episodes that are definitely for sure geared for kids. In Clone Wars, really anytime Jar Jar was on screen, that was a episode that was geared for kids. Anytime there's an episode that centers around, you know, some droids going off and doing some a quest or something by themselves, that's usually geared more for kids. Mm-hmm. Anytime where there's a central focus of wartime and, you know, people talking about the politics of war, or talking about, you know, this, that, or the other. You know, anytime we see the horrors of what the Empire was doing, or really, I should say, in Rebels, anytime Thrawn was on screen, any episode Thrawn was in, those were not meant for kids.
Yeah.
You can argue that animation is for kids, and a large portion of these are, but there's also a very large portion of these that were very mature in their themes and the points that they were trying to get across, the stories they were telling. So no, I would not say that Clone Wars and Rebels are specifically for kids. I would just say there's a couple episodes here and there that are, but for most of it, anyone and everyone can watch it and find something to enjoy about them.
And I think like the whole like animation for adults, I think that's really something that probably started with people my age. I can't think of like too many people like older than me that really hang on to that. And I think it's because specifically for me, I do remember being a kid in the 80s, waking up on Saturday morning. Great example. I don't know of any network stations that still show Saturday morning cartoons nowadays. I don't know if they still do, or if like all Saturday morning cartoons are now just on like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon or some Disney Channel or something like that. I don't know of like CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, them doing cartoons from like 6 a.m. to like 11 a.m. on Saturday mornings anymore. But I used to grow up and watch those religiously. Like get up at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning. I'm going to bed at 5 a.m. on Saturday mornings now. I'm not getting up. But Cartoon Network is dead, Robert. It's gone. Oh, okay. Didn't know. But I grew up with cartoons being so much a part of my life that as I got older, it made sense for them to still be there. Like I know like older generations than myself had like those old like black and white cartoons, or they're not that old, but I don't know of too many people older than me that still hold on to watching cartoons in some form or fashion. Maybe if their kids are watching cartoons, they'll watch with them, but that's about it.
It also depends on the cartoon too, because I mean, you know, you have a lot of adults who will stand by Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing. Only we're talking about ones that exist within Star Wars lore.
yeah. So to bring it back to Star Wars, those cartoons. I mean, essentially, they are sold to be for kids because they were on Cartoon Network or Disney XD. That is a place that kids go to watch. But those cartoons were also made with adults in mind. That adults enjoy Star Wars as well. So there's a best of both worlds in there. But yeah, I had to cram in both Clone Wars and Rebels within like 2.5 months, and doing that while also having to watch movies for like the marquees coming up, the movies that were coming out in theaters to go see, so we could do reviews and stuff like that on there. That's a whole lot of me not really having any say-so on what it is I watch. Oh, you want to watch a movie? Here's a list of movies that you need to watch because you're running a YouTube channel, and that's what's required for that. So, yeah, it's nice that that's over now. Now I can watch whatever movie I want to watch for a bit, although it's time to start getting back on the market.
That's that's the point of having foresight and knowing what's coming up and being able to get on top of things ahead of time instead of waiting till the last minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Ahsoka and all of that.
Yeah.
This series looks like it's going to be very, very interesting based off these first 2 episodes, especially because we know that Dave Filoni is doing something with this show and with The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. All these shows that have already come and existed in live action are all gearing towards what has already been announced to be a movie that Dave Filoni is essentially going to, I believe, both write and direct, which is a movie that kind of culminates and wraps up the storylines from all of these different shows coming together, which is a unique thing in and of itself, by the way, because typically you wouldn't expect to see a movie get released for a wide audience, essentially, in a theater. That is a movie that culminates the storylines of television shows, various television shows like this. This is a unique sounding concept and one that theoretically doesn't work on paper, but I think will work here because Star Wars prints money. It's Star Wars.
I can't think of any other IP that, I mean, the closest I can think of that is, of course, when they make movies based off of popular TV shows, your Starsky and Hutch and Charlie's Angels, and like those used to be TV shows, but we're going to make a movie of it. And look at how many of those are actually successful. So
yeah, this one's going to be interesting though, because that makes me wonder, like, what is the central conflict of that movie? What are we working towards? And I think we already know who is going to be at the center of the conflict, and I think it's going to be Thrawn. I think Thrawn is still, like, this show is setting up Thrawn. He's going to be a piece of conflict in this show, but I think he's ultimately going to be the center conflict of this Dave Filoni movie that we have coming out. And I think everything is going to be working towards that. I mean, we've seen so much stuff with like the Mandalorians and kind of them reestablishing their homeworld of Mandalore over in the Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. You know, we see Boba Fett kind of taking up his new position on Tatooine as the head of the crime world, even though he's essentially kind of going about it in a nicer way. Then you've got Ahsoka, of course, whose whole goal right now is to find Thrawn and find Ezra, and pulling in some of the Rebels crew here. It's going to be interesting to see how these all come together, and that'll tell us also like how many of these actors, when they signed up to portray these roles in these shows, did they also have to agree to a movie? And that's why we were actually able to get the Dave Filoni movie announced, is because after Ahsoka was, finished, produced, all that, all these actors had already signed on for this movie, and so it's like, okay, we can now say this movie is coming because we started all the shows that we wanted to start leading up to it.
I'm willing to bet it's probably going to be something that it'll be a movie that transitions into the full-on creation of the First Order, because a lot of these shows have seemingly been like slightly hinting at this new empire coming. Yeah, they've started dabbling and pushing towards the First Order. We've seen Hux's ancestor. We've heard them talk about like someone maybe building up a new empire. We've been pushing towards this already.
They've been flirting with cloning a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's where this movie is probably going to go. It's going to end up being like the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, whoever is still alive from the Rebels crew from the Ahsoka show. I don't know if anyone's going to necessarily die in Ahsoka, but whoever survives, it'll probably end up being like all of them teaming together for this one last push to stop the First Order, which we already know is not going to happen because the other movies have already come out.
Well, so what I think is going to happen, this is my prediction on where the storyline goes and everything, because we can do like predictions all day as well. But
yeah,
my prediction on where the storyline goes is, knowing full well where the First Order is at come the time of the sequel trilogy, which is, I think where we're at in the timeline right now with Ahsoka is not for like another 20 years or so. So we're going to see like the beginning of the formation of what could eventually be the First Order. And I think that's going to come at the hands of Thrawn. Mm-hmm. And I think what will happen is in order to get it enacted or whatever, Thrawn's basically going to end up being a sacrificial lamb to the slaughter for the First Order to exist. Thrawn's death will lead into it in some way or form or fashion. Because you can't keep the character of Thrawn around forever. He is going to start getting older. I don't believe that the Chiss, his alien species, I don't believe his alien species has a slower aging rate than, say, like humans do. So he's going to be getting up there in age sooner rather than later. And so that's a character that's going to be aged out before you can really utilize him too much in live action. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And knowing full well how we've seen him in Rebels, I'm like chomping at the bit to get him in Ahsoka. I am waiting. Like we've seen him in the trailers. I am waiting for him to show up because he is by far one of the best villains in all of Star Wars.
I just want to hear him talk.
That's specifically based off of what we've seen from him in Rebels too.
Yeah.
I haven't even read the books.
I want to hear that voice come out of the live action. And the fact that it's the voice actor playing him in live action, Lars Mikkelsen, that's going to be great. Because not only is he just producing that voice and the cadence and the tone that he has, making that voice, now he also has control over the facial expressions of how Thrawn looks when saying those words in that voice. And I think that's going to be good. That's going to be some good TV.
I need some more of the Hera Syndulla, nanner, 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 I have your Calicori.
Okay. But yeah. I think the show's going to be good. Right now, though, it is very much like the fifth season of Rebels.
And that's not a complaint. I'm very happy with a fifth season of Rebels.
No, but yeah, Ahsoka so far doesn't necessarily seem to be the main focus of this show. It really does. Like the main focus actually looks like it's Sabine at this point, but in general, it looks like it's more about the Rebels group or the people who are a part of the Rebels group from the cartoon than it is about Ahsoka. That's probably going to change, especially because we already have like ideas that Hayden Christensen is going to be have a couple of cameos in this. So there is going to be throwbacks to the younger Ahsoka, flashbacks to it. So yes, it is going to get more focused on Ahsoka, but just I don't see that in these first two episodes yet.
Yeah, the Hayden Christensen stuff is interesting too because we have gotten a trailer that has new recordings from him as Anakin, and the dialogue and the way he says them. One is it definitely sounds like he's clearly talking to Ahsoka, and two, he sounds very much like he is leaning more towards how Matt Lanter portrayed Anakin in the Clone Wars series, which is awesome because it's going to be a nice blending of the two different versions of Anakin together, where Hayden Christensen gets to portray Anakin in that more confident tone, while also simultaneously still being the visual representation of the Anakin that we've gotten from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
So, yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to do it. Not really much else to talk about with Ahsoka yet. Just, again, we don't really cover TV shows too much. It's just, this was something that we just really wanted to talk about just because of how grand it is that Ahsoka finally has come out.
And because it's leaning towards, culminating in a movie of some sort. And on top of that, listen, I really could go probably a few hours on just being absolutely nerdy about Ahsoka and its connections to Clone Wars, Rebels, and all that. The Night Sisters.
Yeah.
I've seen some other YouTubers online talking about the different theories and everything related to Balin's skull and Shin Hati. And what their last names could represent, and there's just a whole lot of like really nerdy stuff that we could go into. So hopefully at some point I will get a chance to talk about that stuff with someone somewhere. So
I will also end this Ahsoka conversation by publicly announcing that this here channel, Cinefanatics, has now become a Natasha Liu Bordizzo fan channel.
Absolutely.
She is one of the best castings out of anything. Not just in Star Wars, just when you are translating something from like animated or a comic book or whatever into a live action, and you're having to cast someone to play that character, and it's a character we're all familiar with, we've all have grown to love or whatnot. That is one of those top tier castings. I will always say, I would put this up there with Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. That is perfect casting. Of course, the one everyone's going to go to is going to be Patrick Stewart as Professor X.
Yeah.
Also perfect casting. Nailed it. Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. It just made sense. So... But yeah, like for example, though, I wouldn't necessarily put Hugh Jackman on that list. Although his Wolverine is fantastic and I love him as Wolverine, it wasn't one of those like, oh, holy crap, yes, perfect.
No, but in this situation, we can welcome a Star Wars cast into that list of animation or drawing or whatever artistry to live action with Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine, because she is almost nearly a 1-to-1 representation of Sabine from Rebels.
Yeah, the looks, the expressions, everything, it's absolutely perfect. So yeah, big fan. Anyways, yeah, so that is going to do it for the tagline tonight. Again, stay tuned. We will have a spoiler-free review of Gran Turismo up probably during the day on Friday, very likely. We're going to go see it tomorrow. We'll have our out-of-the-theater reaction, as we always do, up on the YouTube Shorts tomorrow evening, so keep an eye out for that.
We'll have to see real quick also on that release of our review on Friday, because I might also be live during the day on Friday before we do the marquee that night.
Oh, that's right. There's a Fortnite event.
The Fortnite, there's potentially an event, or it's just the new season. I don't know what. If there's an event, I'll only be live for 20 minutes or so, and we'll be able to get that review up easy. If it's just the new season, I might be playing for like a couple hours before we go live for Marquee.
We'll see.
So we'll see about that. I will probably be live on my Twitch channel during that day at some point, though.
Yeah. So we'll plan around that. Also on Friday's going to be a big day. If you're streaming Fortnite potentially, then there's a review coming out, and then Friday evening is the Marquee at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. We are going to be tier ranking some of Chris's liked movies. These aren't necessarily his favorites, but yeah,
I love these movies, and they're ones that I highly recommend that everybody watches. If you are part of our Patreon, you can see the list of movies in our Discord. Join that Patreon for $1. You can go check out that list, make sure that you have them all watched up and you're ready to go so that you can jump into the chat and put your vote in also as to where you think these movies rank amongst each other in the list of movies that we are doing that I have chosen for this Friday.
Yeah. So again, that is this coming Friday, the 25th, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Otherwise, yeah, next week after Tagline will be our trivia hangout. So if you're at the $5 tier on our Patreon, there will be trivia to hang out with after Tagline next week. So sign up if you haven't done that yet. But anyways, that is going to do it for tonight. Thank you all for watching. We very much appreciate each and every one of you that stops by, decides to come listen to whatever we want to ramble about. We just appreciate that at least someone wants to come and participate and watch and listen. So thank you for being here. And yeah, we will see you later. Good night.
Bye.